Okay, today's history. It gets a little bit hard to read from here, harder than normal. I'll tell you why. First off, the NHL decided to go to 4-on-4 overtime, and in doing so said, we're going to award a point to the team that loses in overtime. The idea being to get rid of ties. But what it does is it creates 4 columns instead of 3. Your win, loss, tie, and overtime loss. And people talked about trades that I missed, so this is all trades, which means I had to knock some other information out of today's video. The 99-2000 season sees the Central won by the St. Louis Blues at 51-19-11-1, followed by Detroit at 48-22-10-12, followed by Chicago at 33-37-10-2, and Nashville 28-47-7. So Nashville, consistent its first 2 seasons, playing pretty well, excellent defense. Pacific Division is won by Dallas at 43-26-10-6, followed by the Los Angeles Kings at 39-27-12-4, Phoenix 39-31-8-4, the San Jose Sharks 35-30-10-7, and the Anaheim Ducks missed the playoffs with a record of 34-33-12-3. The Northwest is won by the Avalanche 42-28-11-1, followed by Edmonton 32-26-16-8. Vancouver, technically above 500, 8 overtime losses, 30-29-15-8. So things are getting a little better for Vancouver, and they'll get a lot better soon. Calgary, 31-36-10-5. In the Northeast, Toronto, 45-27-7-3, they're first. Followed by Ottawa at 41-28-11-2. So Battle of Ontario, pretty strong fight at this point. Buffalo, 35-32-11-4. Montreal misses the playoffs with a record of 35-34-9-4. Boston, 24-33-19-6. And Boston reaches a new low. Atlanta. Philly wins the division, 45-22-12-3. Followed by New Jersey, 45-24-8-5. Pittsburgh, 37-31-8-6. The Rangers missed the playoffs at 29-38-12-3. It does not get better for them after Gretzky retired. The Islanders, 24-48-9-1. They're spinning their wheels, and they're trading like crazy. And we'll get into what Mike Milbury's been up to when we get to the trades. Southeast Division is won by Washington at 44-24-12-2. Florida makes the playoffs, meaning there's 2 Southeast teams in the playoffs. 43-27-6-6. Very good season for them. Carolina misses the playoffs at 37-35-10-0. Followed by Tampa, 19-47-9-7. And Atlanta joins the league. That's the Winnipeg logo, because that's what Atlanta's become, at 14-57-7-4. Horrible record. Let's get to the trades. May 29th of 1999, Trevor Linden's traded to Montreal by the New York Islanders for the number 10 pick that becomes Metsy. Yep. June 19th, 1999, Ziggy Palffy, Brian Smolinski, Marcel Kuzno, a 1999 fourth, are traded to LA by the New York Islanders for Olli Jokinen, Matthew Biron, Josh Green, and the number 8 pick that would become Taylor Pyatt. So they've lost Ziggy Palffy, Trevor Linden, Brian Smolinski. Yeah, and Jokinen becomes a good player, but not in New York. June 20th, 1999, the second round pick of St. Louis goes to Dallas for Roman Turek, which turns out to be a mistake in my eyes for Dallas at the time. I wasn't happy about it. June 25th, 1999, the Canucks drafted the Sedins, and I was going to get into how the trade worked, but basically they walked in saying, we're going to get the Sedins, they being Brian Burke, and they walked out with the Sedins. And there was all kinds of pieces that moved around, and number 1 draft pick moved a couple of times. In the end, that number 1 draft pick belonged to the New York Islanders. Or no, the 2000 number 1 draft pick belonged to the Islanders. The 1999 number 1 draft pick belonged to the Atlanta Thrashers, who drafted Patrick Stefan. September 4th, 1999, Grant Fuhrs traded to Calgary for a 3rd round pick, which went back to St. Louis. November 3rd, 1999, Claude Lemieux is traded to New Jersey, Rolston to Colorado. There were other pieces in that deal, though. December 19th, 1999, Potvin is traded to Vancouver gives up Kevin Weeks, Bill McCult, Dave Scatchard. So this is a decent deal for the Islanders, kind of, sort of. Weeks doesn't last very long in New York either, though, because nobody really does with Mike Milbury at this stage of the game. January 23rd, 2000. Rod Brind'Amour is traded to Carolina. Keith Primo goes back to Chicago, or goes to Philadelphia. So this is a trade that kind of works for both teams at the time. March 1st, 2000. Malahov is traded by Montreal to New Jersey, and for Malakov they get back Surrey. I'm saying Malahov because that's how it was pronounced with all the French announcers. And it's interesting because we're looking at a point right now where Pacioretty's kind of been a lightning rod for Montreal media and fans. And I remember when Malakov was the one that was being the lightning rod as well. And then when he left, it was like good. And then Surrey, later on, he would kind of be blamed for the ills of Montreal as well. It's vicious cycle. March 14th, 2000. Ron Tugnut and Jani Laukkanen are traded to Pittsburgh. Barrasso goes to Ottawa. This is a deal that, again, kind of benefits both, but it benefits Pittsburgh a little bit better when you see what they do in the playoffs. March 14th, 2000, Alex McGillney's traded to New Jersey for Brendan Morrison and Dennis Peterson going to Vancouver. Peterson is a fourth-line guy, an extra guy. Brendan Morrison goes on to have a pretty decent run with the Vancouver Canucks. That's a trade that works out pretty well. And McGillney plays an important role for New Jersey in the playoffs this season. So pretty decent trade overall. And March 6, 2000, in black, because this is a trade that hurts me so much, with Dave Andrechuk, Ray Bourque is sent to Colorado for Rolston and futures. Sammy Paulson's in there. There's other pieces as well. But seeing Ray Bourque going to Colorado just gutted me as a fan. And it was very upsetting as a Bruins fan, because this was Boston's way of saying, well, we're never going to get Ray Bourque a Stanley Cup. Let's send him somewhere where he can get one. So Ray Bourque goes to Colorado. The Hart Trophy goes to Chris Pronger. That's right, Chris Pronger gets the Hart Trophy that year. Played fantastic for St. Louis. The Art Ross goes to Jaromir Jagr. The Rocket Richard goes to Pavel Bure. The Norris goes to Chris Pronger. The Vezina goes to Olaf Kolzig. The Calder goes to Scott Gomez. The Selke, defensive forward, goes to Steve Yzerman. The Jennings goes to Roman Turek. That's right, the guy that Dallas traded out ends up getting the Jennings. The Adams goes to Joel Quenneville, who is coach of the St. Louis Blues at the time. The Lady Byng goes to Pavel Demitra. The Masterton goes to Ken Danico. The Pearson goes to Jaromir Jagr. The Conn Smythe ends up going to Scott Stevens. The Patrick, for growing the game in the States, goes to Mario Lemieux, Craig Patrick, and Lou Vero. The Clancy goes to Curtis Joseph. The number one draft pick in 2000 is Rick DiPietro, who ends up playing 319 games in his career, has 130 wins, 136 losses, and 26 ties and overtime losses, playing for the New York Islanders. Now, for people who are wondering, the trades, I wanted to include some other trades that I didn't end up discussing yesterday, because your trade, it's interesting, because does the season start July 1st, or does the season start right after the Stanley Cup is awarded? The page that I used for this is saying that as soon as the Stanley Cup is awarded, you can kind of look at it the next year, or as soon as teams are out of the playoffs, like Toronto, like Vancouver and the Islanders were, that's their next season, so they're trading for next season. Or is the number one draft pick, and afterwards, and going into July 1st, is that when the season starts? So yesterday I had the 1999 draft pick up there. Today it's the 2000, and I wanted to mention that the Canucks did draft the Sedins because of all the trades they did, and I wanted to have it up there, but where? All right. First team All-Stars that year. Yzerman's your first team All-Star at center. Jagr and Shanahan on the wings. Pronger and Lidstrom on the blue line, and Olaf Kolzig in net. Second team All-Stars. Mike Modano down the middle. Bure and Correa on the wings. Blake and Desjardins on the defensive side of things. And Roman Turek in net. Your conference quarterfinals. Philadelphia knocks out Buffalo in 5. So Buffalo's hopes to get back to the Stanley Cup final are squashed in 5 in the first round. Pittsburgh knocks out Washington, because of course they do. They knock Washington out in 5. Toronto knocks out Ottawa in 6. And this was when it kind of became a running joke between myself and some friends of mine about the fact that Ottawa just didn't seem to be able to focus against Toronto. They just didn't seem like they were able to handle whatever Toronto was throwing out on the ice. They just couldn't do it. It seemed like it was psychological as much as anything else. New Jersey beat Florida in 4. So the Florida Panthers get back to the playoffs, but they get swept by the New Jersey Devils. Out west, San Jose beats St. Louis in 7. So here's San Jose again coming in as a low seed. St. Louis is a top seed, and St. Louis gets upset in the first round. which, I'm full on cheering for San Jose every year at this point. Dallas beats Edmonton in 5. Colorado beats Phoenix in 5. Detroit beats LA in 4. So the Kings don't last very long in the playoffs against the Red Wings. Conference semifinals, second round. Philly beats Pittsburgh in 6. Another one of those battles of Pennsylvania that they're all amazing. They really don't like each other. New Jersey beats Toronto in 6. And this was a close series. It really was. And the Toronto Maple Leafs, again, at this point in time, they're contenders. How close are they to potentially being Stanley Cup champions? That's a question that's getting asked. Curtis Joseph's fantastic in net for them. And it's a really good mix they've got going in Toronto. Just unable to beat New Jersey in the playoffs. Dallas knocks out San Jose in the second round in 5. Colorado meets Detroit again, this time in the second round. This time they beat Detroit in 5. In the conference finals, New Jersey beats Philadelphia in 7. And that was a pretty, really close series. Dallas beats Colorado in 7 as well. That was a close series, and I was convinced Dallas was going to lose. But at the same time, Dallas wins in the end, and I'm glad that Dallas didn't have to play Detroit. So for 2 years in a row, Dallas dodges a bullet, doesn't have to play Detroit, and ends up in the Stanley Cup final. In those finals, New Jersey wins Game 1 7-3, and I'm an angry person that night. Dallas then wins in New Jersey in Game 2 2-1. Game 3 goes to New Jersey 2-1. Game 4 goes to New Jersey 3-1. I'm not happy at this stage of the game because now my team's down 3-1. Game 5, Dallas wins in New Jersey in triple overtime 1-0. And I remember thinking, just end it. We're going to a Game 6. Okay, now, just don't prolong this. Yeah, Game 6 went to double overtime, and then New Jersey wins the Stanley Cup. In double overtime, they win the series in 6. And as a fan of the Stars, it hurt because I felt like if they could win this Game 6 in overtime, they were going to win Game 7. There was no way they were going to lose Game 7. And they just couldn't quite overcome the New Jersey Devils at that point. Very defensive series other than Game 1. Your playoff leader in goals is Brett Hull with 11. Your assist leader is also Brett Hull with 13, which means he leads in points with 24. Your wins leader, Marty Brodeur with 16. Eddie the Eagle with 14 for the Dallas Stars. And also of note, January 2nd of 2000, Scotty Bowman that year became the first coach to coach in 5 different decades. 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and the 2000s. And reading that, it made me think, we're almost to the end of the 2010s. Is it possible that you could do like a one night where he coaches kind of thing? Could you give him one night behind the bench for a team in, say, Chicago, and just give him that one night as coach so that he can have 6 different decades up there? I don't know. It's just one of those things that occurred to me. If they were going to do it, they would have done it in 2010 or 2011. But at any rate, he's retired. He had a fantastic career, and he's close to wrapping it up in 2000. And that's insane. 5 different decades. I can't see any coach doing that again. Anyways, the 2000 Stanley Cup goes to the New Jersey Devils on the strength of, again, this really solid team defense. A little more attacking than you would have said in 95, and yet it's an all-around team effort. A lot of solid defense. Not a whole lot of marquee opportunities for Dallas in that series. Remember Dallas being very frustrated. They did their best to adapt and to play that game as well, but New Jersey was just that much better in the end. So there you go. The 1990-2000 season. Ton of stuff up here, and I don't intend to do this every day from here going forward. It's just every day it's like, oh, missed all these trades. Okay, there's and this is only about half of the trades that got made. So if I'm going to talk about every trade, we're going to be here for days. Okay, there you go. All done for today's history lesson. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your A3. You just happened upon this video. Don't forget to leave a comment below about anything that you have to say, good or bad. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.